Hey there, it's been a while, but I'm back with another video. In this video, I'm going to start a series on Three.JS. It's a JavaScript graphics library. If you haven't heard of Three.JS before, I'll put a link in the description to the site. You can find documentation, examples, some cool stuff they do. But essentially what Three.JS is, it's a JavaScript graphics library, utilizes WebGL under the hood to render 3D objects to the screen. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it. You can make games, you can make animations, all sorts of cool stuff. But in this series, we're just going to make a simple copy of Pong. It's an old game, kind of like computer ping pong, but we're going to make it in 3D. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are. This is just Visual Studio Code. And we're going to go ahead and start doing our boilerplate for our Pong project. Since this is a web project, we're really only going to need 2 files, so I'll create the first one. You can name this whatever you want, but we're going to need an HTML file. I'm going to call mine screen. Okay, let me just Okay, so you're going to need screen.html or whatever you want to name it, and then you're going to need JavaScript, so I'm just going to call this script.js. Can I spell? Yes, I can. Perfect. Okay. So probably the easiest thing to set up here is the HTML. If you have Visual Studio Code, you can type !enter and it will come up with this boilerplate for you. That's just a quick, easy thing to do. But if you don't have that, you can just kind of type this in. This is just kind of a basic HTML head body tag setup. We're going to need 2 scripts as well. So script tag, script source, and then we're going to need a second one. Okay, so our first script, and it's really important this one goes first, is going to be this link. I'm just going to copy and paste it. Feel free to pause the video and copy it down as well. If it will. Nope, okay, fine. Copy. Paste. There we go. Okay, so basically this is the static reference library to Three.JS. There are a couple of different ways that you can install it. You can use npm and stuff, but this is the way that has worked best for me, so this is the one I'm going to share. And the second script we're going to need is that script.js right here. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the HTML. That's all we're going to need. Most of the bulk of what we're going to do is over here in the script file. So Three.js has a couple of key components that are used. We have a scene, a camera, a renderer, and then obviously all of our objects. So we're going to go ahead and set up the all of those. So we're going to create some constants here. So first we need to create our scene. So constant scene is a new 3.scene. There we go. So this is how you're going to reference objects that are in the Three.js library, is with this caps lock 3 reference here. And this is just to create a scene. So that's just, you can kind of think of it as like the general frame that's encapsulating everything going on the web page. Then we're going to need a camera, call this camera. We're going to be using a perspective camera. There are a couple of different kinds. You can find them all in the documentation. The perspective camera takes in a few parameters. 75, and then position width divided by window.inner height. Okay, so this is the kind of the size, and then the position is going to be the middle of the screen. That's why we're doing width divided by height, and then 0.1 to 1000, and that's our aspect ratio. Okay, so then we're going to also need the renderer, and this is what is going to actually allow us to draw things every frame and update our screen, so we can actually do something with the scene. 3.webgl renderer. All right. Okay, so these are like the three most important things that every Three.JS project needs: that scene, that camera, and that renderer. And then two more things that we're going to need to do is set the renderer size. We're going to do that with the renderer.setSize. And then you just want to set it to the width and height of the window. Width comes first. Window.inner height. And the last thing we need to do is actually put that renderer and the scene and everything into our document. So we're going to say document.body.append child renderer.dom element. There we go. Okay, so this is kind of, you know, the start of the project. There we go, open with live server. Alright, so I'm going to just open this really quick with live server. And I will move things around so we can actually see it. Here we go. Okay. Sorry, let me get this resized. Perfect. Okay, so what you're going to see now is a black screen. That's correct. You're really only supposed to see the black screen at this point. That's just kind of the default of the page and everything. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and, because we're making pong, I want to set up our pong paddles. So to do that, we're going to create a geometry, specifically a box geometry. There are several different kinds. So new 3.box geometry. And then I want to set, so it's just a length width height. So I'm going to do 1, 1, and I'm going to do 5. Should be good. So we only need one geometry for both paddles because they're going to be the same size, but I'm going to need two materials because I want to make them different colors. So I'm going to say const mat1 is equal to a new, and then it's going to be a mesh basic material, 3mesh material, if I can spell. And then we're going to need to add a color. We're just going to use some simple RGB for now. You can make this whatever you want. So that's red. And then const mat2 is going to be, we could just copy paste this in here. And that should be green as well. Okay. So our materials are done. Now I want to make my players. So const, let's say p1 is equal to a new, and then I want to make an actual mesh. So to do that, we're going to just do 3.mesh. And then inside of 3.mesh, we want to pass two things: the geometry to define what box we're making. I just spelled wrong. And then the material. So this is going to be player 1, so it needs material 1. Okay. And then we're going to create P2 very similarly, except we're just going to change these 1s to 2s. Okay, and then we need to actually add them to the scene. So scene.add P1, scene.add P2. Okay, so we have a live server going here, and we still can't see anything. The reason for that is because every object, when you first make it in Three.js, is created at what we call the origin. So if you're familiar with like the Cartesian coordinate plane, there's something very similar in 3D space, where the origin is 0, 0, 0, instead of just 0, 0 in two-dimensional. Every object is created right there, so we have to basically tell the camera, which is also an object, that it needs to move itself so we can see things. So we can do that pretty simply. And we're just going to say camera.position. You can access the position of objects by doing .position, and then I can do .x, y, or z. I'm going to do z in this case. I want to set it to about 20, should be fine. Alright. One more thing that we need to do, actually two more things that I'm going to do really quick, is we need to set a distance away from the edge of the screen that the paddles are going to be. So I'm going to create a constant paddle x is equal to 25, and I'm going to do p1.translate. It should be paddle x, and then p2.translate negative paddle x. So this will kind of lock them in place. As long as you don't modify the x coordinate anywhere else in the code, this should lock them in place. So they can only move up and down. Alright, so now the big thing that we need to do is we need to create our animate function. And the animate function is how we can actually start drawing to the screen. Right now the objects are there, but they're not being actively drawn. So we obviously need to take care of that. So it's pretty simple. We're just going to do function animate. And we need two things in here. We need a request animation frame, and we need to pass in animate. Okay, and then down here we need to say renderer.render. And we need to render the scene and the camera. Okay, and then last but not least, we have to call the animate function down here. Oh, okay, well, that works. Okay, so, sorry for the weird break. I had a little bit of an issue here. I mistyped this. It should be translate X instead of translate, and then I had to reload my screen. But this is what's coming up now. We have these paddles, if you will. They look a little bit funky, but that's because they are three-dimensional and they're being rendered in a little bit of an odd way. So, first thing we're going to do is rotate them. So something like p1.rotate x. We're going to rotate them on the x-axis 80. Let's copy, paste p2. Alright, reload this. There we go. So that looks a little bit better. They actually look more like paddles instead of weird, I don't know what they look like. Yeah, so this is the basic setup of a Three.JS project in Pong. Next time we're going to work on actually moving the paddles around so we can actually play the game instead of just kind of sitting here pretty statically. So we'll do that, and then we'll introduce the ball into the equation. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.